All right. Hello. The following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or an other print disability that makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org. The Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service now presents a reading of articles and features from USA Today for February 2nd. Your readers today are Tom Travers and
Tom Scanlon.
I suspect everybody knows what today is. It's Groundhog Day. The article of the headline of the first article says, Eastern United States is set to be the coldest place on the planet, the forecaster says. That's Doyle Rice, writing for USA Today. Greetings from ice planet Hoth, Hoth. Indeed, much of the eastern United States resembles the fictional frozen Star Wars world, and now folks are now enduring some of the worst cold on Earth. Quote, the eastern United States is forecast to be the coldest place relative to average on the planet over the next 10 days. We're not finished yet, said Washington Post meteorologist Ben Knoll on X on January 27th. The National Weather Service in Mount Holly, New Jersey said that, quote, overall, it is exceedingly rare to get this combination of length and magnitude of Arctic air mass for this area, and it should be taken seriously. Now, for those who have to venture out in the cold for extended period of times, be aware. Cold weather is straight from Siberia. Interestingly, some of the cold is coming from Siberia, and that is contributing to the extremity of the cold, since Siberia is the source of the coldest air in the northern hemisphere in the wintertime. So said Massachusetts Institute of Technology climatologist Judah Cohen in an email to USA Today. Record-challenging cold gripped the Midwest and the Northeast last week, bringing the coldest winter in 8 years to cities such as Detroit, New York, and Boston. AccuWeather reported this. Cohen said this extreme to historical cold is courtesy of our wintertime foe, which is the polar vortex, which continues to play a role in the winter's weather. And likely it will be this way for weeks to come. In a highlighted comment, additional cold surges in February. Much below normal temperatures should persist across the eastern United States into early February before moderating slightly. And while some temporary relief is likely, the polar vortex could unleash another surge of bitterly cold air across the central and eastern United States around the middle of February. Quote, the extreme cold outbreak would be around February 8th to the 11th, and then there would be no improvement, said weather forecaster and trader meteorologist Ryan Maui in an email to USA Today. Talk about Groundhog Day, he said. Meanwhile, warmth will be widespread across the western half of the country throughout most of the month, according to AccuWeather. When will this cold end? They look to continue through at least mid-February and then likely beyond that. But my uncertainty, that's the author of the article, is pretty high, Cohen said. Up until now, this weather, I was fairly confident I can spot the next stretched polar vortex that would usher in the cold. We have at least one more stretched polar vortex in early February. When the polar vortex stretches, cold air usually funnels down into the center and eastern United States. When it strengthens, the cold usually stays bottled up in the Arctic and in Canada. But beyond that, we could see a bigger polar vortex disruption, and it is much harder to predict how it will influence our weather, Cohen said. And the last sentence in this article, quote, "I don't expect that the polar vortex will strengthen and return to normal until meteorological winter is over," which is on February 28th. The vortex, could strengthen again in March. But when and how it may influence our weather is a pure guessing game at this point.
Our next article is titled, "Another Shutdown?" Meh, said many in D.C. Shutdown? What shutdown? It was a time when shutting down the federal government seemed like a big deal. 30 years ago, the firestorm over a 21-day shutdown revived Bill Clinton's presidency and grievously wounded Newt Gingrich's speakership. But the partial shutdown that started at midnight on January 31st created less buzz over the weekend than the early and almost entirely negative views of Netflix's Melania, the First Lady's entry into the documentary filmmaking. Is even though parts of the Pentagon, Health and Human Services Department, and the Transportation Department, left without regular funding, were ordered to begin an orderly shutdown for at least a few days. Late on January 30th, the Senate passed 5 appropriation bills to fund them, but the House can't begin to consider the measure till it reconvenes February 2nd. That's today. We'll get this done by Tuesday, I'm convinced, House Speaker Mike Johnson said on Fox News Sunday. He noted, "The president is leading this." But passage in the House isn't guaranteed. Democratic leaders aren't on board. Some Republican hardliners are expressing opposition. And left unsettled is more money for the Homeland Security Department. Those funds are caught in a fierce battle over Democratic proposals, now backed by some Republicans, to impose limits on the behavior of the ICE agents whose aggressive tactics in Minnesota have left protesters Renee Good and Alex Pretty dead. Under the deal reached by the Trump administration and the Senate, negotiators will have another 2 weeks before shutdown over that looms again. What once seemed like a sign of government in crisis is now viewed by many in Washington as just another day at the office. Shutdowns have lost their power to shock unless clear catastrophe ensues, says disrupting air travel for millions of Americans, or records are broken. That's not to say shutdowns are free for federal workers or Americans generally. Besides overwhelmed TSA lines at some airports, the last shutdown in 2025 resulted in the furlough of about 670,000 government employees. Members of the armed forces were required to report for duty, but some military families turned to food banks to tide over their families. A report by Congressional Research Service released January 29th estimated the 6-week shutdown cost the U.S. economy about $11 billion in lost spending and productivity. The current shutdown has a long way to go before it challenges the record that one set last fall, been prompted by Democratic demand to extend enhanced subsidies for those who buy health insurance through the Affordable Care Act, an issue, by the way, that's still being debated. One reason shutdowns have often become a dog bites man story is that once was seen as shocking last resort, it's been relatively common. In the half-century since the federal budget process was overhauled in 1976, there have now been 23 of them, hitting every administration except those of President George W. Bush and Joe Biden. Ronald Reagan had the most at 8, but each for only a few days. Trump has scored the longest. Previous record of 35 days set during his first term over funding for his proposal to build a wall along the U.S.-Mexican border has now been supplanted by the 43-day shutdown in his second term. Another reason is the federal government is now viewed by so many so routinely dysfunctional that budget statements are seen as just one more example of a broader breakdown. In Pew Research Center poll released in December, just 17% of Americans said they trusted the government in Washington to do what's right most or all of the time. When that question was first asked by the National Election Study in 1958, an overwhelming 73% of Americans held that level of trust in the government. Views of the government have gone up and down in generations since then. They eroded during the Vietnam War and Watergate scandal, and then rebounded during rosy economic times in the mid-1980s and late 1990s. But a spike after September 11th terror attack, 2001 collapsed in the wake of the Iraq War and financial meltdown in 2008. Today's reading, with only about 1 in 6 Americans expressing faith in government, is one of the lowest over the past 7 decades. Washington has also had public expectations low that action will be taken on, well, just about anything. The 119th Congress, which took office January 25th, is on track to enact the fewest pieces of legislation of any in decades, according to statistics reported by GovTrack.us. The bill Trump signed into law in 2025 included the sweeping tax cut measures known as the One Big Beautiful Bill. But the president has opposed many of his more far-reaching policies, not by passing laws, but by signing a record 228 executive orders to impose stringent tariffs, order mass deportations, shake up federal agencies, and deploy the National Guard to the streets of U.S. cities. For Congress, funding the government, one of its fundamental tasks, has proved problematic. Another shutdown? Yawn.
All right. You finished?
Yeah.
Okay, my thing just went down.
Oh, all right. Well, let me read another one then.
Okay, I got it.
Let's see what we got here. Something juicy, I hope. Here we go. Judge orders release of MN 5-year-old dad retained by ICE agents. The author is Jonathan Limehouse. A federal judge in Texas has ordered the release of 5-year-old Liam Canheo Ramos and his father from an ICE detention center as soon as practicable, but no later than February 3rd. That's tomorrow. U.S. District Judge Fred Beery on January 31st ordered the release of Liam and his father, asylum seeker Adrian Caneo Arias, from the Dilley, Texas Immigration Detention Center. Beery previously ruled on January 27th that neither the Minnesota preschooler nor his father could be deported. The detention of Canheo and Liam garnered national attention, with many criticizing ICE after photos began circulating showing the bunny hat-wearing 5-year-old being detained in the driveway of his home on January 20th. The case is genius in the ill-conceived and incomplete complementary implemented government pursuit of daily deportation quotas, apparently even if it requires traumatizing children, Beery wrote in his order filed January 31st. Beery order continued. Observing human behavior confirms that for some among us, the perfidious lust for unbridled power and the imposition of cruelty in its new quest knows no bounds and are bereft of human decency, and the rule of law be damned. A scathing order by Beery comes on the same day a federal judge in Minnesota ruled that the court would not order a halt to President Donald Trump's immigration enforcement surge in the city. U.S. District Judge Kate Menendez, ruling on January 31st, followed a lawsuit by state officials, accusing the federal government of a, quote, unconstitutional and unlawful, end quote, deployment, calling it a federal crackdown. The lawsuit further accuses immigration agents of civil rights violations, including racially profiling citizens and unlawful detaining Minnesota residents.
Okay.
In a statement, USA Today, Jennifer Scarborough, a Minnesota-based attorney for Liam's family, said the legal team representing Liam Conejero Ramos and his father are grateful for the court's thoughtful consideration of the merits of this matter for acting swiftly to reach a decision. We're now working closely with our clients and their families to ensure a safe and timely reunion. The statement continues. We're pleased that the family will now be able to focus on being together, finding some peace after this traumatic ordeal. Liam and his father were taken by ICE while they're in their driveway after school. Tension came after agents refused an offer made by an adult living in the house to take the child. Instead, the agent led the boy to his front door and ordered him to knock, since he was a 5-year-old as bait, according to a release from Columbia Heights Public Schools. One ICE agent has disputed claim, Vice President J.D. Vance defended the agency on January 22nd, saying that the federal agency was targeting Conejero, an undocumented immigrant from Ecuador, accused of trying to flee from immigration agents. As for the boy, Vance said, are they supposed to let a 5-year-old child freeze to death? Mark Prokesko, a Minnesota-based immigration attorney also representing Liam's family, previously denied federal officials' account of the arrest, and Conejero was in the county illegally awaiting asylum, another assertion disputed by the government. How can you justify incarcerating a child? Prochuk told reporters during a news conference in January, adding that Conejero has no criminal record. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey criticized the detention, saying Liam is not a threat of our community. According to Prokosh, Liam and his family used a Customs and Border Protection app to apply for asylum before entering the U.S. 2024 at an official port of entry in Brownsville, Texas. They came properly and are pursuing a legal pathway, he said. Conejero and his wife came to the United States seeking a good life, away from the economic turmoil and unstable job situation in Ecuador, his brother Luis Conejero told CNN.
This next article is similar. It says, Feds and protesters take fight online. Social media has become immigration battleground. The debate over increased immigration enforcement has been fueled by vital videos in the wake of 2 fatal shootings by federal authorities in Minnesota, part of an unfolding and unusual social media battle. Local officials, including Governor Tim Walz, have urged trained advocates and concerned residents to continue documenting federal officers as they make arrests and clash with protesters. In the killings of Alex Pretty and Renee Good, bystander video shared widely online has helped contradict elements of the accounts released by top Trump administration officials. A woman holding a phone argues with a police officer while federal officers detain a man in St. Paul, Minnesota. Quote, it is one of the tools at the disposal of everyday people that is a cornerstone of really being able to hold government actors accountable and to help other individuals who cannot be there on the ground understand that what is happening. Meanwhile, the administration has pushed back on Americans' rights to record law enforcement, while the Department of Homeland Security, which oversees U.S. immigration and customs enforcement and U.S. Customs and Border Protection, has been involved in its own sophisticated social media operation. The use of social media videos by both sides has led to an, at times, unusual dynamic. Protesters film their prospective federal agencies film, and in their perspectives, both sides post videos to make their case to social media. The practice of monitoring the movements of law enforcement and documenting potential abuses dates back to the civil rights movement. This according to Jill Garvey, coordinator of states at the Corps. That strategy was embraced and modified for the modern era during the racial justice protests of 2020. But Garvey said, more people are exercising their right to record authorities now than they ever have. In the days after Good's death, attendance tripled at the training on how safely documented ICE activity held by states at the Corps, Garvey said. After Pretty's death, the organization held an emergency training that hit the maximum capacity of 5,000 attendees, she said. Quote, what we hear from those who come to those trainings is, yes, I'm worried. I want to do this as safely as possible, but I'm actually now more willing to do it than ever before. But now there's evidence that federal agencies are taking a page from the activists' playbook. In one video that has been viewed millions of times, an officer appears to be using his cell phone to document information about a person who is filming him. Quote, "'Cause we have a nice little database,' the officer says when asked why he's recording the information, quote, "'and now you're considered a domestic terrorist.' Jonathan Ross, the ICE officer who shot and killed Good, also appeared to be recording the interaction. Minnesota-based outlet Alpha News published a 47-second clip on January 9th that the outlet said shows Ross's perspective. Vice President J.D. Vance reposted the clip on X multiple times, saying Ross acted in self-defense and criticizing media dishonesty about the incident. That's what Vance said. Research shows the angle at which something is recorded can be highly misleading, and cherry-picking the video out of many to share one can be deeply problematic or actually misleading to the public, Koenig said. Quote, "When we're talking about U.S. government officials, they have a responsibility as individuals who are responsible to the broader people of this country to provide accurate information," Koenig said. Best practice for investigators of human rights violations like Koenig is to look at as many different perspectives of the incident as possible. Activists have used different bystander footage to cast doubt on the federal officials' interpretation of events in Minnesota. The dueling video accounts come as agencies have used immigration enforcement operations as opportunities to capture their own footage. This, according to public records obtained by advocacy groups, including Immigrant Legal Defense and the Stanford Law School Immigrants' Rights Clinic. Dramatic and sometimes misleading videos of tactical operations and immigration raids are then shared on social media. The Washington Post has reported this. For observers, the shift in tone from federal authorities is notable. Quote, "The tone is assertive, emphasizing that the agency is doing the right thing, and sometimes it's kind of competitive and combative," Yini Zhang, a University of Buffalo professor who studies political communications on social media, said of DHS social media posts. ICE and DHS did not respond to USA's request for comment about filming and social media policies. And as the administration captures and shares its own footage, officials have pushed back on protesters' rights to record law enforcement. The Trump administration has said groups that monitor and track ICE prevent the agency from doing its work. Officers have threatened to arrest people filming and following them. A large Facebook group and apps used to track the movement of ICE officers have been taken down following requests from the Justice Department, the New York Times reported. And the final paragraph. But Americans have a First Amendment right to record law enforcement while they are doing their jobs publicly, so long as they don't interfere, according to Sophia Cope, a senior staff attorney at the Electronic Frontier Foundation. Quote, finally, the right is pretty unequivocal at this point, Cope said.
This next article is titled, Mangione Won't Face Some Federal Charges. Judge Takes Death Penalty Off the Table. The author is Janine Santucci. The death penalties were taken off the table for Luigi Mangione in the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson after the most serious federal charges were dismissed by a judge on January 30th. Mangione still faces separate state charges. He's pleaded not guilty to murder, weapons, and forgery counts in New York. The latest update hinges on the 4 counts filed against Mangione, age 27, in federal court, tied to the December 4th, 2024 fatal shooting outside a Manhattan hotel. He was charged with 2 counts of stalking, a weapons offense, and murder through the use of a firearm. The charge that meant he could face the death penalty if convicted. In January 30th court order, U.S. District Judge Margaret M. Garnett granted a motion to dismiss the 2 most serious charges, taking the death penalty off the table in the case. Mangione will still go to trial on the stalking charges, which alleges he caused Thompson's death, and include a maximum punishment of life in prison without the possibility of parole. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi instructed the Justice Department to pursue the death penalty against Mangione in 2025. At the time, defense attorney Karen Friedman Agnifilo said in a statement that the federal charges were brought by a lawless Justice Department that made a political decision to pursue death. In the order dismissing charges, Garnett wrote that the murder through the use of a firearm and weapons charges required the element that the murder was committed during and in relation to another federal crime that is considered a crime of violence. Those charges were made on the basis of the stalking charges, which Garnett ruled did not fit the legal definition of crime of violence, noting that the legal standard was counterintuitive to the average person. In separate state charges, Mangione pleaded not guilty to murder, weapons, and forgery counts in New York. Faces 9 felony counts, including second-degree murder. Carries a possible sentence of 25 years to life in prison in the state. In September, a judge dismissed the state's terrorism-related charges against Mangione. A trial date for New York charges has not been set. He also faces weapons and related charges in Pennsylvania, where he was arrested at McDonald's after a lengthy manhunt and has pleaded not guilty. And lastly, Mangione is accused of gunning down Thompson from behind early in the morning of December 4th, 2024, using a 3D printed ghost gun. Prosecutors have said his writings demonstrate a hostility for the health insurance industry. The violence drew sharp condemnations from political leaders, but also sparked a groundswell of support for Mangione. Supporters have gathered outside his court appearances and donated to a fund for his legal bills.
You are listening to a reading of today's USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 28 minutes after noon. Now we're moving to the money section. And the first article is titled, Escaping the Deal. What deal? Smaller print, home buyers are canceling sales contracts at highest rates ever. This is an article by Andrea Rickwiller for USA Today. Homebuyers canceled their purchase agreements at the highest rate on record in December, another signal of the housing markets mired in uncertainty. More than 40,000 home purchase agreements were canceled in December, equal to 16.3% of homes that went under contract during the month. The national brokerage Redfin said in an analysis published on January 26th. Redfin's records only date back to 2017, but that period includes March 2020, when panicked world plunged into COVID-19 lockdowns. December's tally just barely topped that month. Quote, high housing costs and rising inventory have made homebuyers more selective, said Shen Zhao, head of economics research at Redfin. In a statement, he says, quote, home sellers outnumber buyers by a record margin, meaning the buyers who are in the market have options and may walk away if they believe they can find a better one or more affordable home. In 2025, there were even fewer home resales than in 2024, which was the lowest on record going back to 1995. Observers blame a combination of high mortgage rates and prices, selling reluctant to accept that they've missed the top of the market and price accordingly, and buyers skittish about the economy and commitment. In fact, Redfin's findings mirror a similar dynamic USA Today noted in November. Throughout the 2025, sellers were pulling their listings off the market at a pace of 50%, higher than the prior year, Realtor.com data showed. Quote, buyers and sellers are really far apart. Large prints, illustration by Getty Images and Abel Munoz Montenegro / USA Today Network. I'm not sure what that means. Jake Kimmel, Realtors.com senior economist, said at that time, and John Rogers, associate principal broker with Windermere Realty Trust in Portland, Oregon, described it as a standoff market where sellers still feel that it should be a seller's market, and buyers feel it should be a buyer's market. In consequence, guess whose market it is? It's nobody's market. Redfin's report notes that buyers may be using the inspection contingency in purchase agreements as an escape mechanism. They may cancel their purchase because a structural issue comes up during the inspection, even if their primary reason for canceling is that they realize the mortgage payments are too expensive. The report explains, quote, buyers have options. This is the last paragraph in this article. Buyers have options and are not shy about negotiating to find the right home, said Ellison Williams, a Redfin premier real estate agent in Sacramento, California. Finally, quote, if the seller hasn't fixed maintenance issues or the home is priced too high, the buyer may back out.
Next article is titled, Tax Season Could Be More Stressful. Staff cuts, changes in law among reasons for action. Their author is Medora Lee. Taxpayers should brace themselves for a potentially more stressful filing season because of staff reductions at the IRS and major tax law changes, the National Taxpayer Advocate said in her annual report. The IRS is working with 27% fewer employees than last year, including about a 22% reduction in customer service representatives, to implement more than 100 changes in the tax code. Taxpayer Advocate Aaron Collins said in the report. Many of the tax charges from President Donald Trump's signature tax and spending package, passed in July, are retroactive to the start of 2025 and complex, requiring new forms, guidance, and software programming. While most Americans may still face a seamless tax season, the staff cuts, coupled with new laws threatening to make the 2026 filing season more difficult, frustrating, and costly for taxpayers, practitioners, and the IRS, the report said. Among the reasons the 2025 filing season went well was that the IRS had its largest workforce in many years and faced no major tax law changes that required implementation during the filing season, Collins said. Entering 2026, the landscape is markedly different. Deductions for certain tips and overtime, deduction for auto loan interest, an increased maximum tax deduction for state and local taxes, and an additional senior deduction, some of the major new tax provisions retroactive to 2025 that may cause issues, Collins said. Introduction of Trump account for babies is another major change that requires a separate form. The changes are generally taxpayer favorable because they expand eligibility for certain deductions and benefits, but they have complex eligibility rules, income thresholds, and phase-outs. It will be difficult for many taxpayers to understand, for the IRS to administer accurately during the filing season, she said. Major tax laws changes of this scope hysterically cause more errors in taxpayer correspondence, the report said. The good news is the IRS leadership and its employees have worked hard to provide guidance, implement changes in its forms and instructions, and program its systems for the changes in advance of the filing season. Most refunds are issued in less than 21 days for taxpayers who filed electronically and chose direct deposit, and if there are no issues, according to the IRS. The no issues part's what's concerning this year, with all the tax changes and new forms and possible lack of assistance amid IRS staff cuts. Question remains whether taxpayers will understand these benefits and claim them correctly. A major refund-related move towards direct deposit in 2026 filing season is also expected to affect millions of taxpayers and alter how and when they receive their refunds, the report said. Last March, Trump signed an executive order for paper refund checks to be phased out. As a result, refunding paid during the 2026 filing season generally will be delivered electronically. The taxpayers who do not provide direct deposit information may experience significant refund delays, as the IRS will generally hold refunds for up to 6 weeks while requesting bank information or determining whether an exception applies, with paper checks only issued afterward, the taxpayer advocate said. The IRS began accepting returns on January 26, but it's not too late to set up a direct deposit to receive a tax refund. First, open a bank account. Find a bank through the FDIC website or the National Credit Union Administration using their credit union locator tool. Usually people can open a bank account pretty quickly. You can also ask your preparer if they offer other electronic payment options. Otherwise, you might be able to deposit your refund to a reloadable prepaid debit card or mobile app. Many reloadable prepaid cards and mobile apps have routing and account numbers, which may be different from the card number. Check with your financial institution to make sure your card or app can receive the deposit, and double-check the routing and accounting numbers. Second, make sure to choose direct deposit and include accurate banking information before filing. If you're using a tax software, select direct deposit as your refund method and type in the account number and routing number of your bank account. You can find the routing number, which identifies the location of the bank's branch, in the bottom left corner of your check on your bank's website. Your account number is on the bottom right corner of your checks, or you can sign into your online banking account or call your bank branch. If you're using a tax preparer, tell your pro you want direct deposit. They should know what to do. And lastly, if you're filing a paper filing, make sure you mark direct deposit on your return and include your information. Always double check your entry to avoid mistakes and delays. If you missed a number on your account or routing number, the IRS may send you a paper check.
Okay, this next article is for people out shopping for food. How much do you think a rotisserie chicken is worth? This article says, Costco faces a lawsuit over retailer's $4.99 rotisserie chicken. Picture here, shoppers walk past the rotisserie chicken counter at a Costco wholesale store in Northport, Florida, during their grand opening on June 5th. Disgruntled customers have filed a proposed class action lawsuit accusing wholesale retailer Costco of falsely advertising that its rotisserie chicken contains no preservatives. Filed on January 22nd in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of California, the complaint, obtained by USA Today, alleges that Costco's Kirkland Signature Seasoned Rotisserie Chicken contains two added preservatives, sodium phosphate and carrageenan. The proposed class alleges that Costco has systemically cheated customers out of tens, if not hundreds, of millions of dollars by falsely advertising its Kirkland Signature Seasoned Rotisserie Chicken as containing no preservatives. That's the claim, according to the article. Quote, the lawsuit, brought on by two women in California, accuses Costco of violating multiple consumer protection laws, including in California and Washington state, where the wholesale retailer is headquartered. Costco said in a statement to USA Today on January 28th that the company has removed the signage. Quote, to maintain consistency among the labeling on our rotisserie chickens and the signs in our warehouses/online presentations, we have removed statements concerning preservatives from the signs in online presentations, the company said. We use carrageenan, whatever that is, and sodium phosphate to support moisture retention, texture, and product consistency during cooking. Both ingredients are approved by food safety authorities. Why is Costco being sued? The question is asked. As proof, the complaint includes a photo of an in-store advertisement for Costco's Kirkland Signature Seasoned Rotisserie Chicken, which says the $4.99 food product contains no preservatives, no artificial flavors, no colors, no MSG, and gluten. However, the complaint alleges the chicken contains sodium phosphate, which is a preservative that controls pH and reduces fat oxidation, reduces fat oxidation, effectively slowing microbial growth and spoilage. The proposed class also accused Costco's rotisserie chicken of containing carrageenan, which, according to WebMD, is a commonly used preservative that thickens foods, yet has no nutritional value. The complaint's false advertising allegations stem from the No Preservatives sign prominently displayed in Costco stores and on the company's website, and from the fact that the two preservatives are listed on the back of the packaging in smaller and less prominent print. In addition to accusing Costco of violating false advertising and consumer protection laws, the complaint says the retailer broke unfair competition laws by engaging in unfair business acts and practices by tricking the plaintiffs and the members of the California subclass tricking them into purchasing or alternatively paying a premium for its rotisserie chicken by advertising the product with no preservatives. Question: what does the proposed class want? If certified by the court, the class would include anyone in the United States who purchased Costco's rotisserie chicken, according to the complainant. The proposed class attorneys are also asking the court to approve a subclass consisting of customers who bought the chicken in California. Are you following all these details? In addition to class certification and the approval of a subclass of California customers, the plaintiffs are also requesting unspecified monetary damages. And the last paragraph. Despite the two California women initiating the lawsuit, both said they plan to purchase Costco's rotisserie chicken again, with one giving the caveat that she cannot rely on Costco's preservative-related representations for the product unless these representations are accurate and consistent with the product's ingredients.
You're listening to Radio Today's USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 46 minutes after the hour. Our next article is titled, Most Common Jobs Offer Lots of Work, Little Pay. The author is Danielle DeVizzi. If you're thinking of becoming a home health aide, here's the good news. Nearly 40 million people work in that profession as of 2024. And here's some less encouraging news. The median pay for a home health or personal care aide is only $34,900. And so it goes for many of the most common jobs in America. Lots of positions, not a lot of pay. Of the 20 most prevalent jobs in the nation, only 2 pay 6 figures, according to data on a median salary from the Federal Bureau of Labor Statistics. Only 5 pay more than $50,000 a year. You're looking at things like cashiers or home health aides or retail sales, said Michelle Holder, assistant professor of economics at John Jay College, City University of New York. Somebody's got to do it right. This is a service economy. The jobs are dictated by our wants and needs. The big advantage of a common job, of course, is the sheer number of positions. With 3.8 million retail sales jobs out there, you should be able to find one in just about any market. But even that axiom doesn't always hold. You can't take it as a guarantee that those jobs will always be easier to find, said Keith Spencer, career expert with a resume writing service, Resume Now. In the Great Recession of 2008, for example, a lot of people were trying to find a backup job in retail or food service, and those jobs became harder to come by, Spencer said. If you work one of the most common jobs, you may also find that you can be easily replaced. Of the 10 most prevalent jobs, only 2 require a bachelor's degree, according to federal data. One of those occupations is general and operational managers, a gig that pays $102,950 in median income in 2024. The other is registered nurses with a salary of $93,600. Fast food and counter jobs, by contrast, require no formal education credentials, and the gig pays an average of $30,480 a year. Those are the roles where you hear the stories of toxic employers bragging they could replace anyone at a moment's notice, Spencer said. An adult earning barely $30,000 a year in fast food counter will be hard-pressed to support a family, Holder said. You need both adults working to achieve middle-class status. He said that's the downside. Some of the nation's most prevalent jobs will benefit from strong growth in the coming decade. The home health aide occupation, for example, is forecast to grow by 17% between 2024 and 2034, according to the Labor Bureau. Anything that's tangentially related to healthcare is going to be an opportunity, said Lonnie Golden, an economist at Penn State University's Abington campus. Other large fields are shrinking. The number of cashiers is projected to decline by 10% over the next decade amid the rise of self-checkout. Here are the 20 most common jobs in America and what they pay. 1. Home health and personal care aides. Number of jobs, 3.99 million. Salary, $34,900. 2. Retail sales. Number of jobs, 3.8 million. Median salary, $34,580. 3. Fast food and counter workers. Number of jobs, 3.78 million. Median salary, $30,480. General and operations manager. Number of jobs, 3.6 million. Median salary, $102,950. 5. Registered nurses. Number of jobs, 3.3 million. Median salary, $93,600. Cashiers. Number of jobs, 3.1 million. Median salary, $31,109. 7. Laborers and freight stock and material movers. Number of jobs, 3 million. Median salary, $38,900. Stockers and order fillers at number 8. Number of jobs, 2.8 million. Median salary, $37,900. And number 10, office clerks. Number of jobs, 2.5 million. Median salary, $43,000. If you read this far, then take a look at some of the nation's least prevalent occupations. Very least common job in America, according to the Labor Bureau, is that of wood pattern maker, with fewer than 200 positions nationwide. Geographers and astronomers are also few in number. So few stargazers, so many stars. Here are some of the least common jobs in America. Pattern makers and wood. Timing device assemblers and adjusters. Private household cooks. Dredge operators. Watch and clock repairers. Forestry and conservation. Geographers. Paper hangers. And lastly, astronomers.
And here's the last article for this particular thing. United Parcel Service is poised to cut 30,000 jobs. One of America's largest shipping and logistics companies announced plans last week to cut 30,000 jobs in the coming year. In a company earnings call on January 27th, UPS CFO Dykes cited poor fourth quarter performance attributed partially to decreased package volume from Amazon and the deadly crash of a UPS flight in Louisville, Kentucky. The company saw the average daily volume of packages it handles plummet by 2 million pieces, Dykes said in the call. This is largely due to this Amazon action. Quote, we plan to reduce total operational hours by approximately 25 million hours, said Dykes. Of the year ahead, we expect to reduce operational positions by up to 30,000. UPS likewise has slated 24 buildings for closure in the first half of the year, with more expected to shutter later in 2026, he said. Through these efforts, paired with an increase in automation, the company hopes to reduce 2026's spending by about $3 billion. We expect to offset a second voluntary separation program for full-time drivers, the article says. In 2025, UPS cut 48,000 jobs and offered a buyout to full-time drivers for the first time in company history in an attempt to create meaningful cost savings. In the last quarter, The last quarter saw UPS bring in a consolidated revenue of $24.5 billion, which was a decrease of 3.2% compared to the time quarter of 2024. These reports, when compared to the full year of 2025 to 24, UPS saw a decrease in total revenue of $2.4 billion. USA Today reached out to UPS for comments. That's the end of this particular article.
Just very quickly, another article. Amazon cuts 16,000 jobs globally amid AI push. Amazon said on Wednesday it was cutting 16,000 jobs worldwide in the second major round of layoffs at the company in 3 months, as it restructures after pandemic-era overhiring and expands the adoption of artificial intelligence tools. Reuters first reported last week that Amazon is planning a second round of job cuts as part of a broader goal of trimming about 30,000 corporate roles, with the layoffs expected to affect workers in Amazon Web Services, retail, Prime Video, and human resource departments. Amazon slashed 14,000 white-collar jobs late October, with CEO Andy Jassy stressing the need for the company to eliminate excessive bureaucracy by trimming operational levels and reducing the number of managers. Some of you might ask, this is the beginning of a new rhythm where we announce broad reductions every few months. Well, that's not our plan, said Beth Galetti, Senior Vice President of People Experience and Technology at Amazon. The job cuts underscore how artificial intelligence is changing corporate workforce dynamics. Significant improvements in AI assistance are helping enterprises execute duties from routine administrative tasks to complex coding problems with rapid speed and precision, driving widespread adoption. Jesse said last summer that the increased use of AI tools will lead to more automation of duties, resulting in corporate job losses. In January, top executives of the World Economic Forum annually met, said while jobs would disappear, new ones would spring up, with 2 of them telling Reuters that AI would be used as an excuse by companies planning to cut jobs anyway. You're listening to a reading of articles from USA Today for the second day of February on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. We'll return for more readings after this short break. Your readers today are Tom Scanlon and
Tom Travers.
If you or people you know shop at any of the Dash's supermarkets, please save Dash's register tapes for radio reading. Our agency receives $2 for every $100 in Dash's register tapes. Radio reading has raised thousands of dollars so far. Anyone can drop off their Dash's tapes to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service at 1199 Harlem Road, Cheektowaga, between William and Clinton Streets. Or Dash's tapes can be mailed to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service at 1199 Harlem Road, Cheektowaga, New York, 14227. Any questions on Dash's tapes for radio reading? Call us at 716-821-5555, and thanks for caring.
We'll continue now with our reading of articles from today's issue of USA Today. Your readers remain Tom Scanlon and
Tom Travers.
As always, we turn to the sports section, and our first article is on professional tennis. Alcaraz tops Djokovic to snag a Grand Slam. Carlos Alcaraz can add the 2026 Australian Open title to his amazing tennis resume. At the age of 22, the top-seeded Spaniard became the youngest player to complete the career Grand Slam, defeating 10-time Aussie Open champion Novak Djokovic in 4 sets in Melbourne. Alcaraz now has 7 major titles, the most ever by a male tennis player before turning 23. Nobody knows how hard I've been working to get this trophy, Alcaraz said during the trophy presentation ceremony. I just appreciate this moment so much. Despite dropping the open set and giving the 38-year-old Dvorak an opening to win his record 25th major title, Alcaraz upped his game and slowly began wearing the 4th-seed Serbian star down. With an array of powerful forehands and skillful drop shots, Alcaraz pressed his physical advantage in the later stages of the match, which took 3 hours and 2 minutes to complete. He finished off the match with the only service break of the 4th set to prevail, 2-6, 6-2, 6-3, 7-5. Thank you very much for pushing me to the toughest moments during the match, Alcaraz said in praising the fans in attendance. Can't wait to come back next year. Both players were coming off grueling 5-set victories in their semifinal wins. Alcaraz over Alexander Zverev and Djokovic over Jannik Sinner. I have to be honest, Djokovic said in his speech, I don't think it would be standing in the closing ceremony of a Grand Slam once again. So I think I owe you the gratitude as well as for pushing me forward over the last couple of weeks. And in bold letters, Elena Rybakina completes the comeback to win the women's title versus Aryna Sabalenka. Elena Rybakina is the queen of Melbourne. Rybakina defeated Ariane Sabalenka 6-4, 4-6, 6-4 in the 2026 Australian Open Women's Final at Rod Laver Arena on Saturday to win her first Australian Open title, second Grand Slam title following her Wimbledon win in 2022. It's a really happy slam, and I always enjoy coming here and playing in front of you guys, Rybakina said. It's hard to find words now, but of course I want to congratulate Herrera for her amazing results for a couple of years. I know it's tough, but I just hope that we're going to play many more finals together. One break was all that separated the first 2 sets. Rybakina broke Sabaleni's opening service game to take the first set 6-4, while Sabalenka responded with a single break in the second set. Sabalenka took a 3-0 lead in the third set, but the drama built as Rybakina won 5 games in a row to take the lead 5-3. Sabalenka put a towel on her face after the changeover following the collapse. Sabalenka held her serve to stay alive, sending Rybakina to the service line for a chance to serve out the match. An ace gave Rybakina a championship point, and all she needed was one to claim the crown. The win meant a little revenge for Rybakina, who lost to Sabalenka in 2023 Australian Open final. Sabalenka has now lost 2 straight Australian Open titles following her loss to Madison Keys last year. Sabalenka said she was speechless after the loss and is already looking forward to returning next year. And lastly, she says, I love being here. I love playing in front of you all, she added. You guys are incredible support. I'm always looking to come and play in front of you, and, well, let's hope maybe next year is going to be a better year for me.
Next article is about an interception in the Super Bowl. And it says, that the headline, Butler's SB Super Bowl interception, a game/life changer. Well, when did this happen? Malcolm Butler is a walking Super Bowl legend. Sure, Tom Brady has 7 Super Bowl rings. Bill Belichick is headed to the Hall of Fame eventually. There's Joe Montana, Lynn Swann, Emmitt Smith, big-time ballers, super legends with another Super Bowl matchup, putting the New England Patriots and Seattle Seahawks, though Butler's status among the greats has a special significance this week. Cheers, Malcolm Butler. Everybody knows your name still. Did you know his name? The last time these franchises met with the Lombardi Trophy at stake 11 years ago, Butler, here we go, 11 years ago, sealed Super Bowl 49 with a goal-line interception in the final seconds, literally snatching victory from the jaws of defeat as he stepped in front of Russell Wilson's pass to give the Patriots the crown. No hyperbole here. What a life-changing moment. It changed my life a lot, Butler, 35 years old, told USA Today Sports. More money, more recognition, more expectations, and more replays. The moment is forever immortalized in Super Bowl history. I'm not sure how many times it will be shown between now and the kickoff of Super Bowl 60 at Levi Stadium on February 8th, but if I'm betting, I'll take the over. It probably runs across my mind at least once a week, he said. I sit around the house, and I'm so grateful for all the things I've got. Even if I didn't make that play, my life was going to be good because I was always a hustler, a grinder who was going to make things happen no matter what. But that really changed my life. Quote, when I see people, I get, hey, Malcolm Butler, the pick, and all that stuff. But in my mind, I feel like I made another beautiful play. It just wasn't in that moment. That moment, Butler was such an unexpected hero in the game with household names including Brady and Wilson, Beast Mode and Gronk. He was a rookie from a small school who beat long odds to make an NFL roster after not getting drafted. He played about a third of the defensive snaps that day, 18 out of 53, getting on the field in packages with extra defensive backs. On the defining play, when Pete Carroll's offensive coordinator, Darrell Bevell, inexplicably called for a pass from the 1-yard line rather than have a runaround with bruising running back Marshawn Lynch, Butler cut off the intended receiver, Ricardo Lacquette's slant pattern, and intercepted Wilson's throw just inside the end zone. Man, you've got to be ready when the opportunity presents itself, he said. Butler flashed back to a message from his position coach, Josh Boyer. Boyer told me before the game, Malcolm, you better stay ready. You could put your little school, West Alabama, on the map. And it turns out Butler managed not only to add fuel for a 7-year NFL career, he also piled on a layer of street credibility that he shares with the kids he now coaches. Butler has been a volunteer defensive coach at St. Thomas's High School in Houston for 3 years, helping the team advance to the state finals. Just having that experience helps, he said. Pondering his coaching flow, Butler sounds a bit like Belichick when he contends, quote, you got to do your job or somebody's going to get fired or somebody's going to get benched. Beyond coaching, Butler has been intent on using his platform and his resources to serve a greater purpose. He still conducts the free football camp for his hometown of Vicksburg, Mississippi. Butler has been a repeat donor to the United Way of Central Mississippi, providing free coats and Thanksgiving meals. And he's a good ambassador for sports.
This next article is Olympic related. Absolute chaos. Bobsled moms navigate travel curves with kids. If U.S. bobsled Elena Myers-Taylor had to sum up traveling the world with 2 young children in one word, 5-time Olympic medalists would describe it as chaotic. Flying overseas is enough to make anyone's head spin, but adding sports equipment and baby gear to the mix presents another set of challenges. These are logistics, Taylor, fellow U.S. bobsledder Kaylee Humphreys, and other mothers competing at the 2026 Milano Cortina Winter Olympics consider when packing for the Games. I pack a bunch of boxes of diapers with my bobsled, Humphreys told USA Today Sports in December. It's just like bags and bags and crib and more bags. Literally just stuff everywhere of what I need and what my son Alden needs. I could show you my hotel room right now, but it very much looks like a bomb exploded. Humphreys has got packing down to a science after competing in 5 Olympic Games. The 3-time Olympic gold medalist has been doing it for so long that it's easy, but Humphreys' preparations look a little different this time around. The Milano Cortina Games will mark her first as a mother after welcoming Alden in June of 2024. The most daunting part of travel with a little one is trying to balance all the stuff you have to bring, she admitted. This year added an extra challenge because it requires Humphreys' Alden husband Travis Sambrewster, whom she affectionately calls a stay-on-tour dad, to live out of a suitcase from October 15th through February 26th. Family of 3 travels across Europe for the World Cup circuit and Olympics. Passport, check. Bobsled and helmet, check. Enough diapers to last for 5 months? Fingers crossed. Alden takes a certain diaper that doesn't react to his skin, and you can't get them in Europe. So I had to try and pack and think of, well, okay, how many diapers is 5 months worth? How do I bring it? Humphrey said. As a mom, you're always thinking of what's coming. Which bobsled has served me well, I've definitely learned how to compartmentalize a lot better, how to organize my schedule a lot better, and that's what really is important. Accepting the need of her 19-month-old requires the same level of dedication that helped her climb the standings in bobsled. Since she packed clothes that normally fit a 3-year-old's, along with 2 different size shoes that are just now starting to fit her son, because she knew he was going to outgrow stuff on the road. But no matter how prepared you feel, Humphrey said the what-if still creeping into the back of her mind. If he gets diaper rash, how do you handle that, especially when you're in a foreign country? Humphreys, age 40, asked aloud. What would happen if he gets sick? What happens in regards to a hospital? Her concerns have eased with the assistance and support of the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee's Elite Athlete Insurance Program, or EAHI. Humphreys added Alden to her insurance plan, which carries international coverage for them both. Humphrey's monthly enrollment is covered in full by the USOPC, which she pays out of pocket for Alden. It's a small price for peace of mind. It's been a process and learning curve, but I'm pretty lucky he travels well. Just grateful I get to have this experience with him, especially within our sport, said Humphreys. Said Alden has traveled to 10 countries alone in the first 15 months of his life. I could not do this if they weren't able to come with me. Ensuring everything is packed is only half the battle. Next comes the actual traveling, which features hours-long flights after you've made it through TSA. Like Humphreys, Meyer Taylor's 2 sons, Nico 5 and Noah 3, are with her full-time on the World Cup circuit and will attend the Olympics. Her husband, Nick Taylor, a former U.S. bobsledder, who now works as a chiropractor and strength and conditioning coach for the Sacramento Kings, pops in and out as his work schedule permits. That means Mayers Taylor sometimes on her own, figuring it out day to day. She often finds travel with a nanny for hand, but her son's mobility and curiosity grows with age. Balancing acts will be more demanding, especially with Noah, the most athletic person in my family, she joked. Thought it'd be much easier as they got older, and it is not. Meyer Taylor, age 41, said, bigger children, bigger problems. Now they're both walking, they're both up, they don't want to sit in planes, they don't want to stay still. They don't want to sit for meals or anything like that. So it's absolute chaos. Taylor said her children's disabilities, both of her sons are deaf and Nico has Down syndrome, created some unique challenges on the road. Nico experiences sensory overload at times, becomes overwhelmed, she said. Boys don't particularly sleep well on planes, and then there's keeping up with their specialized treatments and medical equipment while on tour. I hope I don't lose a cochlear implant on a plane, Myra Taylor said. One time we lost it in St. Moritz. I thought it was in the toilet. There's all kinds of things going on, but at the end of the day, I haven't met a single person that isn't willing to help a mother struggling with 2 kids. There have been many people that help us on and off planes, help us get bags off planes, flight attendants helping my kids. We have unique challenges, but we have been unable to deal with them. Haven't been unable to deal with them because of the great people we're surrounded with. Despite the obstacles of traveling with children, Humphrey said having her son on tour brings some normalcy and has helped her separate her identity from sport. Now she goes to work just like everyone else. Her husband Travis cares for the son full-time on the road, allowing Humphreys to focus fully on racing at the track. After a day of training or competing over sports, Humphrey translates back into mom, her favorite role so far.
And this next article is about a young fellow. It says, special bond helps flag flourish. Flag is the young guy's last name, Flagg. So a special bond helps flag flourish. There's this somewhat unique arrangement Cooper Flagg has worked out with the Dallas Mavericks, but to properly understand it, we must first go back to Bangor, Maine, back to 2019, when Flagg was in the 6th grade. His parents had been looking for someone to guide Flagg, who was then 12 years old, as a basketball player, always the standout. He was already drawing interest from national programs, so the objective was simple: to maximize his potential in a state relatively devoid of elite basketball talent. And so the Flaggs found this coach named Matt McKenzie and walked into his gym, though Jim, frankly, is doing a lot of work. Something between a garage and a warehouse with the floors and a hoop. It's where McKenzie soon realized he'd have to invent drills, think micro shot clocks, and one-on-one games where Flagg was restricted to a single dribble to match his unicorn intensity. Fairly reserved in public, Flagg is notoriously deliberate in trusting people. The family also keeps its inner circle tight. So when they saw the work McKenzie was putting in, the Flaggs gradually sought his counsel and brought him into their support group for Flagg. Quote, "We've just developed a very special bond that goes beyond basketball," McKenzie recently told USA Today Sports. Even now, that hasn't changed. In fact, the Mavericks, whose record is 15 wins, 25 losses, have empowered Flagg, the number 1 overall pick and youngest player in the NBA, to assume total ownership of his rookie season. From granting McKenzie excessive access to implementing cold tubs and Normatec compression boots that increase blood circulation to meeting precise dietary and hydration needs, Dallas is following Flagg and his inner circle to dictate the terms of his development. That's interesting. Unique relationship spurs his development. The biggest element is Mac McKenzie, who now works for Flagg as a player development coach and advisor. Not only does the arrangement have the team's full blessing, McKenzie said he acts as, quote, an extension of the Mavericks coaching staff, and called the partnership collaborative. He splits time between Maine and Dallas, flying in for most home games, where he sits a few rows behind the bench. On any given night, McKenzie will show up in the arena before a shoot-around. He will observe Flagg's mechanics, and he will connect briefly with Mavericks coaches to discuss film they had reviewed with Flagg. Then, McKenzie may meet with Flagg to discuss any refinements. This way, I can be another voice to complement what they're looking for, McKenzie said. I'm not somebody who's going to just work against them. I'm working with them, just offering him a perspective, being in his ear if he has things he wants to talk about. If he wants somebody to lean on, I will tell him the truth. he can come to me. On occasion, to help him navigate the nuances of being on the road, Mackenzie may even travel with Flagg, who turned 19 on December 21st. Mackenzie, after all, has known Flagg more than a third of his life, so he also acts as a trusted confidant. This is somewhat atypical, let me say that again, in the NBA, even for star players, though not necessarily unheard of. It's an arrangement that can carry some risk. If any secrecy or communication issues emerge, they can breed resentment or erode trust. Ironically, Dallas had reportedly developed an issue over a comparable arrangement with his previous star. According to ESPN, the Mavericks bristled when Luka Doncic, a team of health and performance staffers on his own expense to handle the majority of his treatment after the team fired a former trainer. A lot of other stuff. A lot of times I'll just stay out of the way, Mackenzie added, but Cooper knows that I'm within earshot. I can be there in just a minute. Cooper is the perfect example of he can play any position. He can guard any position. Mavericks icon and Hall of Famer Dirk Nowitzki told USA Today Sports, "You can never have enough 6'9" guys," oh, they didn't say that before, "who can bring the ball up, put the offense in motion, get downhill at any time, spot up and shoot. He can set the pick and roll, but he can also run the pick and roll. Honestly, he's a perfect guy for wherever this game is going. The scary thing is to me that the kid is only 19 years old." Flagg finished a recent game, a 114-110 Dallas win with 35 points on 22 attempts, 16 of which came before halftime. All were career highs at the time. Flagg has averaged 20.6 points on 15.2 attempts over 25 games. By comparison, he had averaged 15.7 on 13.5 shots. So he's showing signs of steady growth. Everybody's happy about that. What is capable going to be here in the first couple of months? As time goes on, he's only going to get better. In a November 24th loss against the Heat, Flagg stole an inbounds pass in the final seconds, giving the Mavericks the chance to tie or win the game. And then it lists about 5 or 7 other things that he's done. He's growing up faster than people think. Heat center Bam Adebayo said, "By the end of the season, I feel like he's going to be one of them ones that's hard to guard because he's going to just going through those moments now early in the season." And the final paragraph, "I just try to keep my people close to me," Flagg said recently, "my family and support. Obviously, but I think the other part is being optimistic. It's a long season. We've had a lot of guys step up through a lot of injuries, and there have been a lot of positives we've been able to take from some of these games and my coachers." 19 years old.
Here's another Flagg story, this one with 1G.
Oh, okay.
NCAA flag football set for Fiesta title game. Organizers behind the Fiesta Bowl are getting involved in a different kind of college football. The Fiesta Sports Foundation announced Thursday, January 29th, it will host the first of its kind national championship for Division I women's flag football. The two-day showcase will be staged April 18th and 19th on the campus of Arizona State University in Tempe. Dubbed the Fiesta Bowl Flag Football Classic, presented by Oakley, the inaugural tournament will feature 8 teams from the Division I NCAA ranks, the majority of whom will currently sponsor women's flag football at only the club level. Alabama State's the only program invited that is committed to launching the sport at the varsity level. The other club teams invited are Arizona State, Charlotte, Florida, Georgia, Grand Canyon, UCF, and Southern Cal. Eric Moses, the executive director and CEO of the Fiesta Sports Foundation, says this tournament represents the organization's commitment to innovation, hospitality, and the creating of unforgettable experiences. The Fiesta Bowl Flag Football Classic will feature a multi-day championship format with 3 game pools played on the first day, leading to a title game playoff bracket on the second day. The Fiesta Bowl Flag Football Classic tournament invite is huge for us and for women's flag football, Alabama State coach Tyrone Poole said. It's a national stage that validates our sport and inspires the next generation. According to the NFL, more than 30 states are offering high school girls football programs, and 17 states have state-sanctioned championships, including Arizona. Fiesta Bowl Foundation serves as a presenting partner of the Arizona Interscholastic Association Girls Football Flag State Championships. With support from the NFL and the sport's Olympic debut looming in 2028, flag football is growing across the youth and college level. According to the National Sporting Goods Association, flag football was the sport that grew the most at the youth level in 2024, with participation increasing by 21%. In January, the NCAA added women's flag football to its Emerging Sports for Women program, putting on a path to become a championship sport that could have its own NCAA tournament. With a recent announcement from Nebraska and Charleston Southern, at least 12 Division I schools have launched or made public plans to start a varsity women's flag football team. The NCAA reported in 2025 at least 65 schools across all divisions plan to sponsor women's flag football at the varsity or club level. Division III Atlantic East played a full varsity season last year. Division II Conference Carolinas will play a full varsity season this spring, and the Division II CIAA will play a varsity season next year. With investment from the NFL's New York Jets, the ECAC will begin a women's flag football league this year too, with a mix of clubs and varsity teams. And lastly, elsewhere in collegiate athletics, the NAIA has been hosting a national championship for women's flag football since 2021, with the Ottawa University Braves of Kansas winning all 5 titles.
You're listening to a reading of today's USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 26 minutes after the hour. Now we segue to the life section. This first article is a streaming preview, and it says, Bridgerton's Season 4 is a fairy tale. Who is Bridgerton? Benedict Bridgerton was never going to be a Prince Charming. It's the sad but true fact that, in spite of the best efforts of Luke Thompson, the agreeable actor who has played him in the Netflix's Bridgerton for the past 4 seasons, Benedict is one of the blander, more annoying characters the historical romance has produced. He lacks Anthony's Jonathan Bailey pomposity and naivete. He lacks Penelope's, played by Nicolita Coughlan, intelligence and daring, Eloise's sarcasm and witticism, and even Violet's steadfast belief in the status quo. What he lacks, in essence, is any firm personality at all, and his character has wafted around for the first 3 seasons, vaguely positioned as a free spirit who delights in sexual escapades. So the rest of the article should be pretty interesting in that case. So it was always going to be a challenge to adapt the second Bridgerton Sons story for the Netflix series. And that's not even including how many fans think the character should be queer. And when you look at the plot of this story from the Julia Quinn novels from which the Smash series takes its narratives, the show's writers were presented with a further challenge. The challenge is, how do you take a literal Cinderella story and make it interesting for audiences who have been hearing bippity-boppity-boo since preschool? The answer, seemingly, is the sometimes fun but often deeply frustrating fourth season of Bridgertown. Part 1 now is streaming, and it's getting a four stars. It stars Thompson's boring Benedict, but also the magnetic newcomer Yaren Ha as his romantic foil, Sophie. The actress is by far the highlight of the season, at least in the first half, made available for review. But as charming as she is, Ha cannot make up for scripts that struggle to create narrative stakes, import, or feeling. It's as if everyone involved in the juggernaut Netflix show is twiddling their thumbs, waiting for a more interesting Bridgerton sibling to take over the main story. For the sake of the longevity of the series, let's only hope whoever's next can bring more to the table. But Season 4 isn't really about anyone other than Benedict, whom we have seen many affairs and rendezvous with women, and on occasion men, for the first 3 seasons, while fainting at a career as an artist and constantly complaining about his unimportant status as a second son. At the season's outset, he is the child for whom matriarch Lady Bridgerton has the most worry, and who she is determined to see finally settle down and accept the conformity of polite society. Benedict assumes he will never find a woman who can meet his own huge intellect and free-thinking rebelliousness until he meets a mysterious, silver-clad lady at a masquerade ball. Well, conventionally beautiful, our silver-clad ingenue doesn't follow the usual debutante routine and even talks back to Benedict. When she leaves the ball before unmasking herself, Benedict becomes obsessed with searching the Tan, the members of rich upper-class society, for her. Only he'll never find her. There, it turns out, our silver maiden is Sophie Bake. Ha! A maid in the house of Lady Penwood, played by Katie Lewing, with a peculiarly adversarial relationship with Penwood and her 2 daughters. Is this the Cinderella fairy tale minus the magic? Well, yes, it is. While great TV shows and films have borrowed from fairy tales or adapted them outright, the beat-by-beat retelling of Cinderella doesn't gel with the Bridgerton aesthetic. It's perhaps that the show must address inequity for the first time, shattering its romantic escapist vibes. The show could not do a similarly historical approach to class that it did with race. Maybe it's that. After seeing several love stories that took fans' breath away, this ultimate romantic cliché is a huge letdown. Maybe it's that we're all grown up, and we know Cinderella isn't really guaranteed a happy ending. But whatever the reason, the plot of the season grates, and the lackluster subplots can't make up for Benedict and Sophie's shortfalls. Penelope, played by Coughlin, is still hanging around, still Lady Whistledown, and still gathering gossip, even though the Tan should know better than to spill their secrets around her. Lady Danbury, played by Adjoa Andoa, is trying, oh so politely, to get Queen Charlotte, played by Golda Rochenbuhl, to relieve her of her social duties so the weary noblewoman might go into a kind of retirement. Eloise, played by Claudia Jessie, is trying to convince her mother that she should be a spinster. And season 3 also ran Bridgerton Franchetta, is trying to make her intimate life with her new husband more exciting. It all feels a bit dry, hard, and forced. A flaw with the Bridgerton format is that at its most interesting, characters get their happy ever afters. They no longer have any reason to hang around in Mayfair and have even less reason to show up for guest spots in random episodes. Season 4 could have been an open door or to something new, even though the writers were hampered by less than ideal source materials. The writers were hampered by that, and instead it's tiresome and slow going between rare moments of real heat and intrigue. When the Queen laments that there is no good gossip to be had, I can't help but agree. And the final paragraph. Has Bridgerton lost its edge for good? Maybe, but I wouldn't bet against the series. With 4 episodes premiering in February, that's today, it has plenty of opportunities to turn this ugly duckling of a season into a swan, or the pumpkin into a carriage, one should probably say. I'll keep my hopes up for the fairy godmother of boring TV to intervene. Well, are you interested?
Here's an obituary.
Uh-oh.
Beetlejuice and Schitt's Creek star showed comic versatility. Catherine O'Hara, the legendary actress known for Home Alone, Best in Show, and Schitt's Creek, has died. She was 71. The Canadian actress died Friday, January 30th. Her manager confirmed to People. TMZ was first to report the news. Variety and Deadline reported O'Hara died at home after a brief illness, citing her agency, CAA. A veteran in the entertainment industry, O'Hara has been one of the most lauded and respected actors of her generation, winning 2 Career Emmy Awards, a Golden Globe, and 2 Actor Awards, formerly Screen Actors Guild Awards. She was nominated for 2 Emmys at the 2025 ceremony. Born in Canada in 1954, O'Hara began her career in the Second City comedy troupe in Toronto. The group later formed SCTV, the Canadian sketch comedy show, also responsible for launching stars such as Martin Short, Rick Moranis, and Eugene Levy. O'Hara is Schitt's Creek co-star. Her performance on SCTV made her a household name in Canada. She won an Emmy in 1982 for her writing on the show. After it moved to U.S. television on NBC, became known as SCTV Network. In the 1980s and 90s, she worked steadily in television and film, mostly in supporting roles. She appeared in Martin Scorsese's After Hours in 1985 and Mike Nichols' Heartburn in 1986. 1988, she danced in Deo and Jim Burton's Beetlejuice as Delia Dietz, one of her best-known performances. She later would corroborate with Burton again as a voice in 2 of his animated films, The Nightmare Before Christmas, 1993, and Frankenweenie in 2012, and in the 2024 sequel, Beetlejuice. Speaking to USA Today about the long-awaited return to the world of horror comedy, the actress embraced the nostalgia of the film's fans whose parents let them see the movie as kids, or at the age where you look at those times in your life and you remember them fondly, she said. In 1970, she lanced her iconic role in Christmas classic Home Alone as the mother of Macaulay Culkin's poor, forgotten Kevin. She reprised her role in the sequel, Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, 1992. O'Hara and Culkin have maintained a close relationship since the film. She was there at the actor's 2023 Hollywood Walk of Fame ceremony to honor him. Mama, I thought we had time, Cullen wrote January 30th on Instagram in tribute to O'Hara. I wanted more. I wanted to sit in a chair next to you. I heard you, but I had so much more to say. I love you. I'll see you later. The actress frequently collaborated with director Christopher Guest for his signature mockumentary films, including Waiting for Guffman in 1996, Best in Show in 2000, A Mighty Wind in 2003, and For Your Consideration in 2006. During the 2000s, she earned praise for her work as a guest star in series including HBO's Curb Your Enthusiasm and 6 Feet Under. 2010, she received her first acting Emmy nomination for the TV movie Temple Grandin alongside Claire Danes. O'Hara's fame and career prospects took off even further with Schitt's Creek, which premiered on Pop TV 2015, became widely popular after it was subsequently added to Netflix. 2020, she won an Emmy for playing Moira Rose, the theatrically high-maintenance family matriarch, opposite Dan and Eugene Levy and Anne Murphy. Took up a Golden Globe for the role in 2021. She most recently appeared alongside Seth Rogen in his industry satire The Studio on Apple TV and in the second season of HBO's zombie apocalypse hit The Last of Us. She had an Emmy nomination for both of those performances. She married production designer Bo Welsh in 1992 after the two met on set of Beetlejuice. They have 2 sons, Matthew and Luke. Family has lived in Brentwood neighborhood of Los Angeles for many years. O'Hara spoke with USA Today in 2025 about her Michelob Ultra Super Bowl commercial, saying she really finally reached a success for not for her film or television work, but for the ad. I brag to people I'm doing the Super Bowl commercial, O'Hara said at the time. It's like, oh, I've made it. Speaking of her experience in the industry and in comedy, she said, it's a beautiful gift to be able to laugh, especially to laugh at yourself.
This next article is a streaming preview. And it says, we wonder if this is a good fit for Marvel. While watching Wonder Man, you may have to stop to check to see if you're still on Disney Plus. There's a melancholic tone and aesthetic darkness and a general abnormality to the new Marvel series that makes it unlike any Marvel series or film before it. You'll find no Captain America optimism, no Wanda Vision magic, no Loki style cheeky sci-fi. The easiest comic book adaptation to compare it to is Prime Video's The Boys, an irreverent and violent deconstruction of our cultural myths around heroism. If you were to compare it to any genre of TV show, you could pepper in some of HBO's Barry, too. Instead of Hitman with the big Hollywood acting dreams this time, it's a closeted superhero looking for his 15 minutes of fame. Wonder, now streaming and getting 3 out of 4 stars, is an odd duck of a TV show, to say the very least. It's gratifying on the one hand to see Marvel try something almost 20 years after Iron Man in 2008 kicked off its run of Hollywood dominance. On the other hand, Wonder might just be a little too divergent to fit into this existing universe that's so familiar to so many millions of fans, a bit too mournful, a bit too slow, and a bit too inside the entertainment industry. Wonder struggles both to fit into the Marvel universe and to stand on its own, ending up a TV show with oodles of potential, but rather low impact. Simon Williams, Watchmen, breakout Yahoo Abdul Mateen III is a struggling actor living somewhat depressing Los Angeles life of faux niceness and rampant disappointment. Dumped by his girlfriend and fired from his latest gig for caring about his bit part a bit too much, he's all frowns until he meets Trevor Slattery, played by Ben Kingsley, the infamous actor who played the role of terrorist the Mandarin in Iron Man 3. Trevor and Simon become fast friends, and both land exciting auditions for Wonder Man, a superhero reboot helmed in by famously artsy director. Yes, it's an extremely self-referential show. The only problem with this whole Hollywood Cinderella story is that Simon is secretly harboring superpowers, a big no-no for the entertainment industry, and Trevor has some ulterior motives in befriending this real-life superhero who wants to play a superhero in a movie. Abdul Mateen and Kingsley are a dynamic duo, if far sadder and more stated than any Iron Man and Captain America. Both of these people, these characters, have significant trauma that they are working through. And though these characters come from different backgrounds, the actors give them a chemistry and friendship that feels real and visceral. Abdul Mateen has been destined for stardom ever since he turned blue on Watchmen, and it's gratifying to see him chew into a starring role as the leading man he's clearly meant to be. Although the main two performances are great, Wonder struggles with tone and pacing. Some of the awkward scenes going for the cringe comedy laughs aren't well balanced and run too long. The arc of the season sputters between big and little problems in a haphazard manner, with strange side quests for Simon and Trevor that are more head-scratching than adventurous. It's hard to tell if Wonder is black comedy or plain tragedy, an introspective coming-of-age story, or is it industry satire? And speaking of the industry, it's clear that Hollywood adores stories about itself. Just look at the recent Emmy and Golden Globe tallies for Seth Rogen's Apple TV industry satire, The Studio, or glance at Bill Hader's nods for Barry, or the love for Michael Douglas. The Kaminsky Method. There are many moments in Wonder that are incredibly apt for the world aspiring actors are living through today, from Simon needing to self-tape an audition, a major negotiating point in the last Screen Actors Guild contract. The Guild wanted to remove this burden from performers, to the glut of remakes and reboots in the developmental pipeline. There's a poignancy to Simon's struggle that feels relatable to anybody stuck in their career or passion pursuits. It's clear he's talented. Simon has as much acting skill as Abdul Mateen can muster, and he has oodles of talent, but the show helps highlight his sad reality, namely that talent is not always enough to find success. Luck, connections, personality, and more all help decide who makes it and who moves back home to Pasadena. Will Wonder Man herald a new future of offbeat Marvel projects with existential crises and deep meditations on the futility of fame? Probably not. Every tease of Avengers Doomsday promises yet more of the brand's signature cinematic whiz-bang. But though Wonder Man isn't perfect, it's a worthy effort. There's as much superhero fatigue in the real world as there is in the Hollywood Simon and Trevor occupy. An ambitious flop is always preferable to a mediocre success, whether or not Hollywood executives agree.
Sarah Jessica Parker offers advice for Gen Z. Nearly 30 years after Sex and the City first aired, Carrie Bradshaw and her friends are still finding their way onto Gen Zers' screens. Young women are now posting TikTok confessionals about their own Mr. Big, even sharing videos and texts from their situations, relating their own lives to the show and seeking advice from other viewers. It makes all of us very happy that there's this new generation that's watching and enjoying or consuming and maybe objecting to things about the show, Sarah Jessica Parker said. That's the way it always was with our audience. We welcome their thoughts and feelings, and I personally am very touched to be part of their lives. The show's resurgence speaks to how deeply its themes still resonate. Love, ambition, friendship, and navigating relationships gets an ever-evolving dating scene. While Parker's character Carrie is known for dispensing advice in voiceovers and columns, Parker is far less comfortable in that role. I always loathe to give advice, she said. Everybody's life is so different, and the things that they have available to them might be different from you than it is for someone else. Still, when asked, Parker offers one piece of it, which she concedes is far from glamorous. Work hard, she says, like really work hard. For Parker, that means being ready to learn and expose yourself to as many people, situations, and ideas. You cannot be the expert if you're not really constantly watching and listening, she said. Any time I've had success because I spent a lot of years listening, getting paid very little, working very hard, offering to do anything. Parker wants Gen Z to have it all, but also prepare for all of it. That means being ready to face and work through challenges, whether it be in the workplace or in personal relationships. Maintaining a sensitivity to the world and to your own emotions, but also allows some things that are not comfortable, she says. I'm not saying not safe, she declares. I'm saying not comfortable. Her greatest concerns with Gen X is that they may lose the ability to problem solve, the ability to sit with complexity rather than immediately rejecting it. It's something Parker wants young people to lean into. I want you to have the professional life you want. I want you to have the personal life you want, she says. For some people, one is more important than the other. For some people, it's the same. I want you all to have situations that are complicated, and then you young guys figure them out, not just condemn the complexity. If young people learn how to navigate these experiences, Parker imagines them to become better bosses, mentors, and employers when they're in a position to create the work environments. You can help a young person figure out how to problem solve and how to talk to somebody who's perhaps not treating them well, or that they've not treated well, she says. Well, I guess that's it. It ended. Oh, okay.
We just about ready to sign off?
I don't know.
Now here's something, just a reminder on the 6th Annual Grammy Awards. Your All Access Pass. Hey, if you play it right, catch up on everything you need to know from the Grammys at usatoday.com Entertainment. Look out for standout fashion from the red carpet. See the best and the worst performances, what you don't see on TV. This is just, suggestions.
All right.
We're looking around for some.
You've been listening to a reading of USA Today for the second day of February. We read USA Today weekdays at noon. For more information, please call us at 716-821-5555. Your readers today have been Tom Scanlon and
Tom Travers.
Radio Reading mails out a large print program schedule to our listeners every other month. If you have not received a Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service large print program schedule in the mail, please call us at 716-821-5555. We will make sure that you receive one every other month. A Braille version of the schedule is also available upon request. Our number again is 716-821-5555. You're listening to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service with broadcast studios at 1199 Harlem Road in Cheektowaga. Radio readings are broadcast 24 hours a day, every day, to area people who are blind or have a print disability. This year, our agency marks almost 40 years on the air with more than 300,000 hours of radio readings to those without sight. Our broadcast signal is provided at no charge by WNED. The Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service website is nfradioreading.org. For more information, call 716-821-5555. Radio Reading mails out a large print program schedule to our listeners every other month. If you have not received a Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service large print program schedule in the mail, please call us at 716-821-5555. We will make sure that you receive one every other month. A Braille version of the schedule is also available upon request. Our number again is 716-821-5555. following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another